We're in Mineral King Valley right now. It is absolutely packed. It's July 4th weekend. We are going to make a scramble of Sawtooth Peak and then maybe head out over to Needham Mountain, which is the tallest peak in the Mineral King area. And if we're feeling a little froggy, maybe hit Empire Mountain on the way. So leaving a little late, but not too worried about it. It should be gorgeous up there. Yeah, we'll see you at the trailhead. Marmot wrapped cars. Marmot proof? Not marmot proof. Not a lot of shade for the first part of the climb, but a nice graded trail. So we've gained just about 1,000 feet from the trailhead, maybe 800 feet or so. Here's the first junction, left up to Tinnenberg Gap in that stand of trees, and right up towards Crystal Lake, Monarch Lakes, also Sawtooth Pass and Sawtooth Peak. All right, so here is this first little meadow, groundhog meadow, and there's an unmaintained trail right under Empire Mountain there. It's about 11,000 feet, Empire Mountain. That's the old Glacier Pass Trail, and it might be able to see it just cut in. Goes left up to Glacier Pass, but we're gonna cross this creek and go right over towards Sawtooth for now. The wildflowers this season have just been incredible. But get a little bit of water, and then get into some shade. I interrupt your programming for a public service announcement. If you see trash on the trail, pick it up, even if it's not yours. Don't wait for someone else to do it. At junction number 2, Monarch Lake up to the left, that's where we're headed, and Crystal Lake off over to the right around that ridge into Crystal Bowl. But following Monarch Lake Trail. Getting into the Monarch Lake drainage, and there's Mineral Peak, Sawtooth up that way. We're gonna climb over to the back side of the bowl and approach it from the south. One thing that you might want to notice right here if you're considering this climb, some people take too steep of a descent down, so get a little too antsy and start descending down this way. That scree can cliff you out pretty bad. You can get into a pretty bad position if you cut it short and you don't traverse the ridge down far enough towards Sawtooth Pass. So the safer way is to traverse the upper ridge down towards Sawtooth Pass and come down that way. And avoid these big cliff sections, because those can get pretty sketchy. And I'm speaking from experience. All right, here we are at Lower Monarch Lake, and you can see the cascade from Upper Monarch and Sawtooth. Up to the left, we're gonna traverse left around this lake and take the trail to the upper lake, get to Upper Monarch Bowl. Just getting in to Upper Monarch Lake. Sawtooth Peak is up behind me, but really love this lake. Just has a sweet little spot to sit and eat lunch on the dam. Got a good view of Mineral Peak up there. Not climbing that today, save it for another day, but fun class 3 scramble, and nice beach on the far side. Found a great little spot to fill up some water. We're above Upper Monarch Lake, and we are going to go up that way ascend the south ridge of Sawtooth Peak. See if we can get a scramble over to Needham Mountain, which is the tallest mountain in the Mineral King area. And then go back to the ridge and summit Sawtooth. So just about to crest the ridge to get a view of the east side. But be mindful, if you plan on hiking Sawtooth, you got to go through all of the pea gravel. So I'm wearing gaiters right now. I would recommend them if you want to climb this peak. Otherwise, you are going to end up with a lot of rocks in your shoes. And you don't want rocks in your shoes when you're climbing up here. Those are no fun. Just cresting the south ridge of Sawtooth, and we're getting a view over to Needham Mountain. So it takes a traverse. I'm supposed to hit it pretty low though. Let's see what this looks like. So there's Sawtooth Peak up that way. So we're at 11,200 feet, and I think this might be our ticket over into the Soda Creek drainage, so we can go tag Needham Mountain, and then we'll come back right over here, skirt this ridge up, and we'll hit Sawtooth on the way out. It sounds like a pretty good plan. We just came down that chimney behind me, and we're officially in Soda Creek drainage. Super beautiful country. I've never been over this way before, but excited to make this traverse and see what the terrain deals us. Killer. Super fun scramble up to the summit block of Needham Mountain. There's Sawtooth off in the distance. Gonna be hitting that later today. But let's top out. Last little chimney until we reach the top. Of Mount Needham. There we go. Check this out. Got black Sequoia looming large. There is Nine Legs Basin, Upper Big Arroyo, Sequoia Gap over that way. Mount Sequoia. Just peeking out is Mount Williamson. Took that on a couple weeks ago. Looking east, we got Mount Whitney, Mount Muir, Mount Langley. See Moraine Lake on Chigupa Plateau. And on the other side of that flat zone, flanked by Big Arroyo and Kern Canyon. Just looking over south. Couple unnamed lakes. A little Clare Lake over there. The Great Western Divide. Amphitheater Lake. Can even make out Homer's Nose way off in the distance over Hank's Peak. And there is Sawtooth. We're heading that way on our way back to Mineral King. But yeah, just super pumped to be up here. Found a register right down this way. We're gonna sign it snack and be on our way back down to Silver City. Yeah. All right, off over to Sawtooth Peak. Let's do it. A lot easier going down this scree than it is going up. So, looks like there might be someone on the summit. I would not be surprised. Sawtooth sees a lot more summits than Needham Mountain. But I still got a lot of elevation to climb and a ways out. Probably 2/3 of the way done with this ridge traverse. There is Needham Mountain, 12,500 feet. Had to lose about maybe 1,100 feet of elevation or so to come around these like giant pillars or gendarmes, whatever you want to call them. And we are gonna skirt the ridge line. I guess this would be the East Ridge up Sawtooth. I've never climbed it from this direction. Should be cool. Looks steep. Sticking to the East Ridge from Needham Mountain, hiking up East Ridge of Sawtooth, and we're just about there. Spectacular view of Lost Canyon and the Big Arroyo, of course the Kauias. Looking forward to topping out. So, got into this little predicament where I think we might have to crawl through one of these chalk stones to get to the summit. I think that might be it though. Let's see. Looks like it to me. All right, let's take this pack off. So, crawled through that little passage, and indeed, I believe we're pretty much out to the summit. Yeah, we did it. Little funky little way up. Super cool. So stoked. There's the Kauias back that way. That one move brought us all the way up. Oh, Sawtooth Peak. Radical. This is pointing west out towards Homer's Nose, which is a pretty impressive rock face. Got Vandiver Mountain, which is part of the Great Western Divide. Florence Peak. Looking down to Amphitheater Lake and Soda Creek drainage, over to Needham Mountain where we were earlier, into Lost Canyon, Columbine Lake down there, and out to the northeast you have the Kauias, Black Kauai on the left, Mount Kauai on the right. Some pretty spectacular summits. Pretty sure you got Mount Williamson poking out. There's Mount Russell and Mount Whitney. Sawtooth Pass trails right over here. So, unorthodox way of reaching the summit, going from the East Ridge, but that way I started out along the South Ridge is very doable, and you can also traverse over from Sawtooth Pass, which is right over there. That's probably the most direct way to do it, but I like a little adventure. So stoked, soaking it in. Now it is back down to Mineral King in the Silver City store to go get some pie. Again, just in case you are planning on doing this scramble, there's Upper Monarch Lake. Be careful not to descend too early towards Upper Monarch. You kind of want to skirt the ridge over towards Sawtooth Pass, which is actually to the north, because if you drop down too soon, you get cliffed out on all of this scree, which is pretty sketchy. So just be mindful of that. But great summit, absolutely spectacular views of Mineral King, the high country, all the way down to the valley below. Skirted pretty close to the ridge. Had to up climb at one point because I got cliffed out, even though I was staying pretty high. And here's Sawtooth Pass, right up there. I'm still deciding whether or not I want to go over that little notch and take Glacier Pass down. It's kind of a quicker way down to the valley, as opposed to all of the switchbacks of Monarch Lake Trail. But we'll see when we get a little bit closer. So if you are climbing from the Monarch Creek drainage and you want to get up Sawtooth, I recommend taking the switchbacks way up Sawtooth Pass and then traversing over, instead of fighting this scree. It's just gnarly. Not fun to come up, a little bit easier to go down. However, once you get to the switchbacks, don't be lazy, don't cut the switchbacks, because they're there for a reason. They're there to get people up the pass and up the mountain. So I am going to take the switchbacks down. So I decided to go back on the Glacier Pass Trail, an old, unmaintained trail that was built during the mining boom in Mineral King. Definitely not for most people, but kind of adventurous, gets you down a little bit faster. A lot harder on the knees though. Just big blasted out chunks of like slate, but this is kind of what it looks like. You can see the cairn right there, and it goes right under Empire Mountain. But just absolutely stunning out here. Really happy with how the day went. It was a long push for sure. Got a little bit of a late start at about 10:20, and never gone that route. You can climb the north ridge from Sawtooth Pass to Summit Sawtooth. I went over the south ridge and dropped into Amphitheater Lake to go climb Needham Mountain. You can also climb Sawtooth from the south ridge as well. I actually took the east ridge. I mean, if you made it this far, you watched me pop up onto the summit from the east ridge. So really fun climb. It's my fourth time up Sawtooth, but the first time doing it that way. Just really special. Thank you for following along. Let me know if you have any questions, and take care. Thanks for watching.